Los Angeles, a city built on dreams, yet haunted by shadows. A place where movie stars walk red carpets, where songs are born in dimly lit studios, and where ambition burns brighter than the neon lights that line Sunset Boulevard. But on September 9, 2025, the glamour was shattered. At a quiet city impound lot, workers noticed something unusual. A white Tesla Model 3 that had been sitting for days, untouched, collecting dust. The smell was the first sign, foul and heavy, creeping out from the car and filling the air with dread. When officers arrived and forced the vehicle open, what they found inside would leave the entire city stunned. Wrapped in layers of plastic, hidden in the trunk, was the decomposed body of a young girl. Within hours, the coroner identified her as 15-year-old Celeste Rivas, a teenager who had disappeared more than a year earlier. And then came the revelation that turned tragedy into scandal. The car was registered to none other than David Anthony Burke, known to millions of fans worldwide simply as David, one of the fastest rising stars in modern music. For fans, the news felt impossible to process. David's rise to fame was nothing short of miraculous, the kind of story that made young dreamers believe anything was possible. Born in 2004, David grew up quiet and reserved, fascinated less by sports or popularity, and more by the sounds he could create on a phone. His earliest songs were recorded on his sister's iPhone and uploaded to SoundCloud, never meant for fame, never meant to be anything more than raw expressions of teenage emotion. Yet those very songs struck a nerve, resonating with a generation that felt unseen. By 2022, his breakout single Romantic Homicide didn't just climb the charts. It exploded, racking up millions of streams and turning David into an overnight sensation. Within weeks, he was hailed as a voice of Gen Z, his melancholy lyrics echoing through bedrooms, headphones, and late-night playlists around the globe. His story was told as the perfect modern fairy tale. A boy who had nothing but a phone and a dream, now standing among the giants of the music industry. And yet, fairy tales have dark twists. The discovery of Celeste's body in his car transformed David's narrative from inspiring to chilling. Suddenly, the lyrics that once felt poetic began to sound like confessions. In Romantic Homicide, David sang, "In the back of my mind, you died, and I didn't even cry." Fans had once embraced those words as the anthem of heartbreak and numbness. But in the wake of tragedy, critics dissected them as something far more sinister. Online detectives unearthed an unreleased track, allegedly titled Celeste, where David's words referenced tattoos, obsession, and a love that refused to fade. It didn't take long for fans to connect the dots. Celeste Rivas herself had a tattoo, and she had once told her mother she was seeing someone named David. What had once been dismissed as coincidence now felt like a pattern too disturbing to ignore. The police investigation only deepened the mystery. David had reported his Tesla stolen weeks before the discovery, but the details were hazy, the timeline inconsistent. The car was towed from the Hollywood Hills on September 3rd. By the 8th, impound workers had noticed the smell. On the 9th, the body was uncovered. If the car had truly been stolen, why had it remained so close to his neighborhood? Why hadn't David pressed harder to locate it? Forensic teams descended on the vehicle, swabbing for DNA, searching for fingerprints, analyzing the condition of the remains. Early leaks suggested that Celeste had been dead for months, possibly aligning with the time of her disappearance. Detectives interviewed her family, friends, anyone who could shed light on her final days. Her mother's statement, that Celeste once mentioned dating a boy named David, suddenly felt damning. To many, the evidence wasn't just circumstantial, it was overwhelming. But in the world of fame, truth is never so simple. As quickly as suspicion spread, defenders of David emerged. They argued that he was being framed, that anyone could have planted the body in his car, that fame made him an easy target for scandal. His lawyers insisted he was cooperating fully with investigators. Still, the damage was done. Overnight, David's glittering career collapsed. His highly anticipated Seattle show was canceled. Billboard reported that sponsors were pulling back, fearful of backlash. Crocs and Hollister, brands that had once proudly partnered with him, severed ties immediately. His Spotify listeners dropped by nearly 40% in a single month. And social media, once the engine of his fame, turned into a courtroom of public judgment. Hashtags like hashtag Justice for Celeste and hashtag Cancel David trended worldwide. Videos of fans burning his merchandise went viral. Where once his name meant hope and healing, now it carried only suspicion and fear. What unsettled people most wasn't just the crime itself, but the way art and reality blurred together. For years, David had been celebrated for writing music that felt real, music that seemed to draw directly from his own life. In interviews, he admitted that romantic Homicide came from a deeply personal state of emotional numbness, even as he claimed other songs were based on imagined scenarios. To some, this sounded like harmless contradiction. To others, it was evidence that he had always been confessing in plain sight. Cultural critics argued that the lines between persona and reality had become dangerously thin, that the world no longer knew where David ended and his lyrics began. The scandal also revived haunting parallels from the past. In 2014, rapper Earl Hayes murdered his wife during a FaceTime call before taking his own life. In 2022, rapper Jay Tash killed his girlfriend in front of her children. In 2023, Ace NH, acquitted in one homicide, was rearrested for allegedly killing his pregnant partner. Again and again, the industry had been rocked by violence, obsession, and tragedy. But David's case was different. He wasn't just another artist. He was a symbol, a generational voice with millions of teenagers hanging on his every word. His collapse wasn't just personal, it was cultural, a fracture in the identity of an entire fan base. And yet, amid the noise, one truth risks being overshadowed. Celeste Rivas was not a headline, not a symbol, not a hashtag. She was a 15-year-old girl with a life full of promise. Friends remembered her as funny, creative, bursting with energy. She loved painting, dancing, and dreamed of traveling beyond her city. For her family, this wasn't about music or fame or scandal. This was about the permanent loss of a daughter, a sister, a friend. Every new headline forces them to relive their pain, while the world debates theories. In the chaos of speculation, her humanity must not be forgotten. As of now, David has not been charged. The LAPD remains silent, releasing no official statements beyond confirmation of the body's discovery. His legal team insists he is innocent, cooperating, and determined to clear his name. But silence has a weight of its own. Each day without answers deepens suspicion. Each pause in the investigation fuels conspiracy. The world is left with questions that feel heavier than any lyric, any rumor, any denial. Why was Celeste's body in David's car? Was it coincidence, or was it confession? For David, the boy who once dreamed of nothing more than recording music in his bedroom, the dream has become a nightmare. The Tesla that once symbolized his success is now evidence in a murder case. The lyrics that brought him fame are dissected as clues. And his name, once spoken with adoration, is now whispered with suspicion. The final question remains unanswered, but it echoes louder every day. Who killed Celeste Rivas? And why was her body found inside David's car?